Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our next episode of Masters of Product. Our topic for today is how do you actually drive transformation in a large organization, especially when it's actually driven or the transformation is driven by the product ops team. To help us with that topic today in our studio, we actually have Jenni Hlebasko. She's the product operations leader at CST. She has over 10 years of product and ops experience across e-commerce, digital platforms, and pretty much anything else you want to build. um, as for me, my name is Mustafa Kapadia. I help product teams figure out how to use AI so they can be more effective and efficient. You can learn more about me and about our services at echo-point.com. Jenni, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mustafa. I'm happy to be here.
This is great. Jenni, you and I have worked quite closely together just over the last couple months to try to figure out how you can actually transform the way your team or your product team at CentralSquare is leveraging AI just for their day-to-day work, right? If you don't mind, why don't we just give our audience a quick high-level overview of the type of transformation that you're driving at CST?
Yeah, love to. As with anything as a product manager, you can't start with the solution, right? So you got to ask the why and what are we trying to do before we get into the how and the what. So when I first joined, I did a listening tour of the entire product organization. And I think what I wanted to learn was not only what was working, what wasn't working, but where did things start to break down? What were the major problems for the product managers as a user? Because now, as a product manager transition to an ops leader, you're no longer solving for the end user problem or the market opportunity. You're now solving for your product managers. Right. And I truly believe that as a product ops person, you're really looking towards what is taxing on them. What's that mental load or cognitive load? And how can I reduce some of that friction in their day-to-day? So some of the initial observations that had come out of that signaled, we need major change. Whatever that change might be, we need something to help them because they are inundated with requests, 100%. Whether it's from stakeholders, whether it's on meetings all day long, ensuring alignment, putting out fires. And right away you hear, I don't have enough time to do discovery with customers, or I don't have enough time to rethink, even just have headspace to ideate and think about product strategy, form a product strategy, or redo, rethink, and adjust it. And so the list goes on. So yes, you as a product ops person, you always hear templates, process, standardization, these words in the industry. But for me, you can think about best practice and process for sure, but it's only as good as the environment in which you deploy it. Right. And that would only scratch the surface of what we had to do. And I could feel it. I could feel the need from the product managers of what they needed. And just process and templates is only going to get you a little bit there. We needed something more. And that's why when we spoke with yourself on what can AI do to transform that, not just on let's apply AI here and there, right? It has to be a holistic approach of all areas of where you think about where it could be introduced. And you can only do that by being taught and learn the latest in the tools. And so we benchmarked, right? Before we started our training program, we benchmarked where we were at. And the majority of product managers, at least at CentralSquare, were using AI maybe once weekly or not at all for basic things like drafting emails, doing transcripts from meetings. And after we went through our transformation, and we'll get into that in a bit, the majority of our PMs now we're using AI multiple times daily, which is 100%. A huge impact.
Actually, I want to dig into the results as well. I want to go back to something that you mentioned, right? Because I like the idea that you did a listening tour to figure out what's going on and where the PMs are really hurting, right? And you and I and Brian started working way before we actually even got into the engagement to figure it out. And I know at that moment in time, AI was a nice concept. It's like, oh, I think AI can help. Yeah. But I remember, I don't know if it was a one-on-one between the two of us, or maybe it was the three of us on the phone call, in which I said, let me just show you what AI can do. I don't know if you actually remember that time.
Oh, yeah.
And then I went through an entire workflow with you guys, right? Or at least I think Brian had already seen it, so maybe it was with you. I remember at that moment in time, you're like, Mustafa, I can't believe this is what AI can do now. But tell us more about that moment, because that was really the tube light moment, I believe, when you realize that there's a lot of the problems that you're listening to and that AI can actually help you with. Is that a fair summarization of that moment?
Yes, definitely. And I think, I know I want to talk to about some of the things we ran into, but something that even I suffered from was skepticism of, I don't want to just apply the latest shiny object to my day-to-day work when I know quality of work is so important.
Yeah.
And I wasn't bought in yet to, I used AI a lot. I used it in everyday work. I was one of the people that, was curious. I will say, I will call myself an AI curious person. But when you showed me how it could be used in particular key things that product managers have to do, I immediately heard, they have big backlogs. They have large numbers of customer feedback to go through. These are things that I knew our PMs could benefit from, even when you were showing me. So I think that was that moment where I said, oh, wow. One, this was super surprising to see and feel and have that experience to touch it, right? See, feel, touch. And I knew in the back of my mind that our product organization could benefit because they had already told me that these are the problems they are facing.
Yeah. And sometimes what I've noticed is, especially when we go into clients, sometimes they don't even know what's possible or the art of the possible. And only when we show it to them, they're like, oh my God, we're just scratching the surface like you talked about earlier, right? Yeah. It's like using, like you've heard me use this phrase all the time. It's like using a Ferrari like a paperweight. Right? But coming back to your transformation story, let's focus. I definitely want to talk about the how we got there. But before we do that, let's talk about the results, because you were just getting into it, right? So where are your PMs now? Like, what is happening or what has changed since the last 6 or 8 weeks that we've been together?
Yeah, I mean, I could throw some of the fancy metrics at you for sure, because I do think that's important to highlight. But the bigger thing before I do is the mindset. It was the mindset change from, I think about AI last or never, to I think about how can this task that I have at hand, or this approach I'm about to start, or this ideation that I'm going to just begin now, how can AI jumpstart this? How can I start with it to help me get my creativity going? Because it's not just about, yes, we had major time savings. We went from, like I said, 1 to 5 hours if they were using it, and if they were not, no time savings per week, right? And then from the end of the program, we are now saving 15 to 20 hours per PM per week.
Right. And that's like less than 6 to 8 weeks, right?
Yes. So you're thinking about, yes, that it's a fancy metric, right? That's a really big change on time savings, but it's not just the time. Yes, that time can be reallocated to spending more time with real customers, to sitting down with support, understanding what are the key issues, the pain points that customers are calling in about. Yes, that's important. But as well, for some of the use cases the team came up with, it's improving the quality of their creativity. It's not taking the place of, because the PMs already have that they have the creativity, they have the product sense, they have the context. All they need to do is get started and kind of have that blueprint of really kicking off the whiteboarding session, if you will. And AI just enhances that. It really just elevates it. It doesn't replace it.
Yeah. I like the 2 pillars that you're talking about, because yes, you're absolutely right. Productivity is a huge benefit, right? But the second one, which I think a lot of people forget, is that it just makes you a better PM, right? More effective, better quality. You can do things that you could never do before, like prototyping or digital twins or synthetic users, that are just brand new things in your toolkit. And now you can actually, by being a better PM, by improving your craft, you're ultimately building better products, right?
Yeah. I mean, do you remember we had somebody who, I forget who it was off the top of my head, but I wouldn't name names anyway, but that had never built something themselves, right? Had never coded before and built a working prototype, like an app without code.
Yes.
If anything, like I said, it created that innovative creativity, that spark and energy, the grassroots approach that we'll get into in a bit as we talk about the how, but that's the part that's so exciting to see.
Yeah. If you that same person, by the way, she just didn't stop at one prototype. In less than a week, she had built 5 different apps.
Ran out of credits, I bet, for the
We
free.
ran out of credits. We had to end up buying more credits.
More tokens, yeah.
She's like, I can't get enough. And by the way, more impressive than the fact that she built 5 in less than a week is that she had never done coding in her life. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was just an unleashing of creativity, right? Which is awesome. So we talked about the benefits. We talked about the productivity ones. We talked about the effectiveness ones. We talked about the mindset ones, and of course, people doing things in new ways. Was there any other surprises that you noticed in just the way the PMs were working or behaving? Like things you're like, oh wow, I would never expect that this would come out of this.
Yeah, couple of fun stories. So I would say not only the creativity, because we obviously wanted them to come up with, we'll show them on what's possible now,
Yeah.
right? But we also wanted them to come up with their own ideas, their own use cases. Yes. And they
100%.
centered around anything, you name it, that a product manager is responsible for: market research, customer understanding, drafting product requirements, user stories, prototyping, you mentioned, even some of the content and communication with stakeholders. So I think I mentioned that's a big way to kind of inundate a PM on the day-to-day basis, is like working collaboratively. You don't want to stop that, and nor would this take the place of that. But it did shield them a little bit from a lot of that noise that you keep getting the same questions over and over again from the same cross-functional teams. Yeah. And so they built tools to help facilitate and enable those teams with the answers to the questions that they needed.
Yes.
And that was through the digital twins, the agents. And so that surprised me so much, was the creativity of not just things for themselves selfishly as a PM, but to help their cross-functional stakeholders as well. I had one of the leaders of product mentioned this the other day, and it made me smile. She said, I keep asking one of my PMs, for some tasks to do, right? I keep asking him questions, and he's created an AI tool to get answers for each of the ones that she asked for, like 3 different tools, she said, within hours. And he was then able to use that tool to get the answer she needed. It was like around analyzing contracts in Salesforce.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yep. And
I remember that one.
Yeah. And it's funny to hear, even from the leadership's perspective, of, wow, we are immediately already seeing a change in how we behave,
how we work,
and how we work. Yeah. And it inspires
them. It's contagious.
Mm-hmm. It's contagious. Right? Yeah.
Because when you see somebody else doing it, I'm like, oh, I want to do that too. And it's when you realize how easy it is. Well, relatively easy. It's like, okay, trust me, it's not as hard as coding, because coding is a lot harder. If you know how to write, if you know how to read, if you know how to write, you should be fine. I actually want to, if it's okay with you, I want to flip it to the opposite side. And you kind of mentioned it earlier too, is that this has not been an easy journey, right? There's been challenges and skepticism and fear, especially before we even started with the program, right? And so please share, if you're comfortable with it, what are some of the challenges that you encountered before you got people into the program, and then after or during, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, there's a few. So the skepticism you mentioned, the fear for as well. I think there's a hesitancy to explore and experiment with the latest and greatest AI tools out there, simply because there's a lot of noise in the market around it's coming for jobs. Companies are replacing jobs. Like, you hear about it today. So immediately you have this resistance by default because of what you're hearing. And that can come from product, it can come from engineering, it can come from design. And we did I really wanted to make sure that we had our key collaborators in the room with us as we were experimenting with this. Because, as you know, the sooner you bring in your design and engineering leads to solving a particular problem 100%. For a customer, the better. We know that's how you work. And so I wanted to do the same thing here, bring them along, have them feel it with us as we were going through as a product organization, to as well help the adoption after we finished. And so we're almost trying to get ahead of that fear at the same time of bringing those other stakeholders in. And the other aspect is too, some of the, we're proving out some of the false news, right? AI is hallucinating all the time. It doesn't give me the right answers I need. And we were limited to simply using Copilot at first until we got introduced to these other tools, how to use them safely and securely throughout the program as well.
Yes.
Until we could get, approval for enterprise licensing, which we ended up doing as well for some of the tools that we thought were the strongest. And so there's that upfront investment of time that they were worried about too. I had to put all this effort into prompt engineering. When we learned that, yes, it does take time, but there's ways to get there faster.
Oh, yeah.
It was funny too. This is the last one I'll touch on, and then we can get into, how we kind of solve for these challenges. But people were already worried about adoption before we even started the program. So, let's go through the learning first, then we'll worry about that. But I appreciated that concern being brought up, right?
Yeah.
They were thinking ahead. And I think that grassroots approach, inspiring from within, from the ground level, not saying, oh, now we're going to mandate this standard, this process, you guys are going to just go do it. This is coming from the product managers themselves. They gave them the tools, they were able to experiment, and now they're going to be using it. So I think that approach in itself kind of helped with that adoption concern too.
Yeah. No, I think the things you're touching on make complete sense, and we see that with other clients too. Number one is fear of jobs, right? That AI is going to take away. Skepticism that can AI really help me with my job, and you shared some of that, and some of the team had that same thing, right? And then, do I really need to use AI? Is it just going to add more work? Because it's just another tool.
You're already exhausted. Right? Yeah.
We already have enough tools out there. Is it going to really do it? And especially for a lot of folks, it's not like AI is new to them. They've all had a chance of some kind of encounter with AI, right? So they all have a baseline experience, and like, well, it's not giving me great information, right? One of the first things I know product managers do is they go into AI and say, can you please create this PRD for me? And when it creates something, I'm like, oh my God, this is just crap. And that's usually where most people are, and that's where they start off with, right? And so there's a healthy amount of skepticism, a healthy amount of like, I don't want to use another tool. It's not going to make my life easy. It's not going to do any of these things. Everything that I see in LinkedIn is all hype. So how do you get there? Those are very human emotions, right? So I'm curious and I know you guys did a lot to get over those things. So tell me some of the strategies and tactics that you guys employed.
I would say the leadership engagement from the beginning, even before we started our transformation, was key. Yeah. They were in it. They knew the importance. They realized that this was something we had to do. They wanted to explore it as well themselves. They were engaged throughout the whole time. So I'm always very strong on, if our leaders are doing, your team will see. And so we were very adamant around that engagement all the way up to senior leaders. So right off the bat, they were there. I would say making the time as well. Block your calendars, spend the time, like having that as well from leaders coming down, that we are investing in this. You guys are taking this time, to really have that headspace to find what we found. That's why I really think creating that space to learn and not having any outside distractions, it was dedicated, blocked off from the beginning. Yeah. That was a huge key to do. And that's why we saw the success we did.
Yeah. I think having the tops down approach, the top support makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Right. And then once you get them to really know how to leverage AI effectively, it just kind of blossoms.
Yep.
Right. I do remember having, when we sat down and did an engagement with you, we actually also did some kind of a listening tour in the very beginning, right? And we spent 2 or 3 weeks doing benchmarking. And one of the gentlemen we interviewed, he was very skeptical, and not just skeptical about AI, but also worried about his job, right? And then I remember talking to him after the program. He's like, Mustafa, this is just, I was so wrong.
I love it.
Right? Yeah. I was so wrong about it. Now I know how to leverage it correctly. Number one, there's no way this thing's going to take over my job. And number two, it's just going to make my job easier.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's really what we want to get to.
Absolutely. And also, can we just try it? I always love to say that. Can we just try it though?
Yeah.
Like, what if we just tried? And that just disarms. When you have that mindset of, okay, let me just sit, let me learn, let me absorb, let me just try it.
Yes.
See what happens. Yeah. It's those moments where they get to do it on, not just see it. Oh, wow, that's the wow factor. That's challenging the fear aspect. But when you actually get to do it yourself and apply it in real world scenarios, at the end, that's where you really feel the benefit. And I think that's probably where that, I know who you're talking about. I can probably guess who that was, but that's probably the moment that he felt that way.
Yeah, that's perfect. This is great, but you know what? There's a lot of work that you guys did. There's a lot of work we did to actually get here. So I'm curious. And by the way, we haven't even talked about the important role of product ops has played in this, right? Mm-hmm. Because it has literally been the one driving the transformation. And I firmly believe that if you really want to change the way you work, you need to have a dedicated team to do that. And product ops is a perfect place to have that dedicated team, because the mandate's already there, right? It's in the name. It's product operations.
Yeah.
Right. It is there to make everybody's life easier. So tell me more about the process and the approach you had. And I know it was 3 different buckets, right? Because we talked about getting the team ready to leverage AI, right? And we talked briefly about that. Then the program itself. And then you have big plans beyond it, right? Because we're just scratching the surface. And I know adoption is a challenge too, because even though people are excited, there's always going to be people who drop off. So I'm curious if you can walk through the 3 buckets, or what are the things that you did to help you get the team where it is right now?
Yeah. So, my product ops brain kicked in right when we started this whole process. And I thought, I was excited to go through the program as a PM as well for myself, but I took a different lens on it. I knew that we had to think not piecemeal of how do I apply this solution to this thing. Again, getting too much into the solution too fast. Yeah. It can't be piecemeal like that. It needs to be a holistic thought.
Right.
Zoom out. What's the entire responsibility area of a product manager? How are they from the start of the product development lifecycle all the way to the end?
Yeah.
Where could and how AI be placed inside of those various areas? And it had to be intentional. We had to train the PMs first, make it be repeatable. And as well, this was a key thing too, always think about impact. Because again, I'll just use AI for this. Yes, we're getting away from not using AI or thinking AI at all, but just thinking about it, let's just start there. Yeah. I would push back on that. The mindset was more so, should AI be here? Should it be used in this case? And why? And if it is, then I can invest that time to create either the solution, the digital twin, the agent, what have you.
Yes.
And then we can work on scaling it from there. So I would always challenge the product managers to think in that way as well. Yeah. And they do. They're thinking impact first.
Perfect.
What's get me there fastest.
Yes.
And so we started with I know you mentioned it earlier, like what's possible now.
Yeah.
AI tools, even from just a year ago, have come a long way. 100%. And I think we all had to have a moment of, this is where we're at now. Let's level set ourselves. And I think the best thing for them too was which tools should be used for various use cases. Like which ones are dedicated for that or intentionally created for this particular problem. And having that menu of powerful tools up front gave them something to react to immediately. And what we learned, like I said, taking that holistic mindset of every stage of the life cycle, where could we interject AI usage and enablement?
Yes.
Again, not a replacement to talking to real customers, to 100%. Sitting down with design and engineering, to rather from not doing that, to amplifying creativity, your product thinking, your critical thinking. That's also needed. And so we thought about it holistically. And so there are areas now where we're thinking we have all these ideas of how to approach it and things to use. Now let's bring it back in. So we allowed the grassroots, big innovative thinking. Now let's bring it in a little bit so we don't have multiple product managers working on the same thing. Let's share those learnings, right? Yeah. So it helps them not have to spend
100%.
double investment on something.
AI is very much a community-based learning event,
Yep.
right? You can try to do it on your own, but you will go so much further and so much faster when you do it with a cohort or with a community, right?
Yep.
And most people miss that, right? They try to do it all by themselves and they miss out the most valuable, or one of the most valuable parts.
Yeah. And that's where you go next.
Yeah.
Then we have a dedicated AI adoption team of
Perfect.
individuals that are super passionate, that really I would say they're the early adopters. If we were to put them in a category, just really found inspiration throughout the program and would like to continue working in this way going forward. And so we have that dedicated team with various product managers, product owners, and a couple of UX representatives as well. And they'll be understanding all of the use cases, not only that we already identified, but new ones that come up
100%.
As we're cross-sharing. So we're setting up time as well for all of product to share through their ideas. And that adoption team will kind of be they'd be productizing the AI usage in a way, when you think about it, proving out whether this use case is good for AI, whether many can benefit, not just a couple.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you're thinking from a product mindset, how you adopt tooling internally.
Yeah. I think I like, so number one, of course, I like the story because I wish more and more clients would follow that, because I think it is a proven way to get to where you are. And I like what you're thinking also from a future perspective, is that it is really about building these type of communities to make it almost like AI into a habit. It's like just the way we use Word or Outlook, right? One of the first apps most people spin up is their email, right? It's just integrated into the way we do it. And I think AI is getting there. I know you have different strategies over time, right? So right now, I know you're focusing more and more on driving the adoption, making it more community-based and so on and so forth. But you and I have talked about it further too. Like it doesn't just stop there, right? You're looking also to taking a look and saying, what are the key processes that we have with AI, and we're going to embed AI into it. So there's a process and engineering part to this, right? You and I have also talked about how this changes the way you hire people, right? This changes the way you promote people, right? This changes potentially the composition of what a PM team looks like, right? And I know these are things that you guys are going to get to, but tell me more about what that thought process is like, or what you guys are thinking so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having for who we hire and how we hire, it's definitely going to be table stakes for when we bring new individuals into the organization.
And you're onboarding new PMs right now.
We are. So we want them to go through a similar transformation training as they join the company. So for me, as a product ops person, you're thinking through what are the major areas of training that we want to focus on, and how can we enable them with materials that they can have as a curriculum to learn. And again, we talked about how important it was to touch and feel, to experience it, to try it yourself. That's going to be the part where they would need to take it upon themselves to experiment, but at least give them the tools up front through, like I said, the curriculum of what's the expectation now of product management with AI, and
100%.
give them those tools up front. So I think for newbies coming in, that's what we will recommend and do. For the second part of your question, outside of just the adoption piece, embedding AI to every area of our life cycle, how we're thinking about that, it's less, it's going to be less sequential, where you're going from stage, right? To now you're probably going to be collaborating in real time with 100%. AI in the room. Like that's kind of that longer term vision of how we would work very different, where you're not having a time where you pull up Figma, you're collaborating with designers, in real time like that. Now you might be pulling up your prototyping tool.
Yes.
And
it changes the
why not? I think it helps. We talked about the importance of bringing these partners in earlier. We all know that. That's what PMs do. But this now challenges that even more, where you have physical things to now react to sooner in the process and can be working in real time on that. And so I think it's going to speed up that part of the life cycle, but not replace again, and also not be done in a vacuum. We're already working with our engineering operations team to think through how the engineering side of the business is already utilizing AI in what they do, and how will what product is doing affect that, if at all.
Yeah.
And so we're getting ahead of that now. We're just now scraping, like I said, scraping the surface, but thinking that we'll have to start to collaborate very closely with what they're doing as well.
I think that makes perfect sense. And you know what? You have quite a lot of work cut out for you, but it's actually, you are, I think I shared this with you. We just released a benchmarking study just a few weeks, maybe early this week. And you guys are definitely on the more cutting edge of where people are, right? And so the stuff that you're doing here is just going to compound your capability as you go over time, right? It's just going to get you and your product team in a much better place than they were. A lot of product teams are just still struggling with trying to figure out, how do I use AI effectively, right? They're thinking about it more like a tooling piece. And I love the fact that you guys are thinking more about it as, this is really a new way of working. And that has actually shown in the way you kind of approach it. So I think it's fantastic. Jenni, you and I can talk about forever, but we always ran out of time. In fact, we're over time. So last question, everybody gets it. How do you personally use AI? I know you use AI a lot. You are part of the whole AI challenge piece. You've built a lot of stuff yourself. So tell me, how are you using it now personally, or for work, and any hacks or favorite things that you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, I think my favorite hack, if you will, not really a hack because, we've learned how to use it, but the digital twinning idea is, I use it in Claude. I have one for everything. It's pretty crazy at this point. One for our company, one for our goals, and one for a product manager at CST. So again, my persona as a product ops leader has changed from end users to now be personas of product managers. So how am I building process, templates, tooling? We talked about that at the beginning. For my new user, I start with that to spar with. On the personal side.
Oh, I love that. So you've built a synthetic user of your product team, or a person within your product team. And then you leverage that to kind of bounce off ideas about, okay, as product ops, if you do X, Y, and Z, how are you going to, how's it received and how you can receive it better. So you're using it to just make your life easier. I love it.
Yeah. Like, how would I train this? How would I train you on this new idea?
Yeah.
What questions would you have?
Yeah. It's a great way, because you know that anytime you push something new, you're going to get into objections.
Yep.
And so that synthetic user or that digital twin is going to highlight not all of the objections, but even if it highlights 80% of the objections, that's better than going in cold, right? So
yeah, and I just start with it, right? It's not, I still am talking to my product managers and my product owners. I'm still talking to them, having those meetings, but I'm not replacing that at all. I'm just starting with this synthetic user at the start, just to
it's a new capability. Why not take advantage of it, right? It doesn't mean that you don't talk to real people, because that would be a shame. But it is just brand new, right? So there's things like, and what I like about digital twins and synthetic users is that you can ask them questions that you can ask real people.
Yeah. So
that helps. Right. Yep. So, and then I'm sorry, on the personal side, what were you?
Oh yeah, this is funny. I'm a cook, so I really like to cook. I've been using.
Now you tell me after this the whole time. No.
Yeah, I've been using the synthetic user tool as well for my favorite chefs. And, don't tell, but I have a chili cook-off coming up, and I definitely use some of that to get some trade secrets on the best chili recipes. So hopefully I'll win. But that was super helpful to get like the best of the best, the Bobby Flays, the Barefoot Contestos.
Right? That sounds great. Yeah. Yeah. I think I might have to come all the way to Chicago just to have it taste your chili.
I'll freeze some and send it to you. How about that?
Perfect. I love it. AI can't do that for us, but maybe one day it will.
Yeah.
Jenni, this has been great. I think the way you guys have managed this journey, the way you're actually bringing your team along, the way they are now in such a short amount of time, has been fantastic, right? And especially the fact is you're not stopping now, which I see some of the companies do or some of the clients do, in which they think, oh, now we're done with this phase one. There's more to go, right? And I'm glad you're thinking about phase 2 and phase 3 about enabling momentum or sustaining the momentum, changing your processes, changing your organization. That's really what codifies things. So first of all, kudos on an awesome journey. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see where you guys are a year from now. So hopefully you'll be kind enough to come back and you can share with us where things are.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mustafa. I appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you. And bye for now.
Bye for now.